are still in a sleeper spell by Hollyweird and the Corpse. Can anyone check on the business umbrella that Hollyweird is under? Hollywood, Hollyweird, it's all the same. Can anyone check on the business structure, who they are, who Hollyweird is under, who employs Hollyweird? Can someone check on that? Is it the United States Corporation? Because I personally know that is how universal disclosure is made through these Hollyweird productions. A lot of these movies are the end time scripts. It is universal disclosure. So can we find who is funding Hollyweird and who is funding them up to the highest dimensions of spiritual wickedness? That's what the great God, Universal Allah, said, that these spiritual wickedness in higher dimensions would be the powers and principalities that had, and that's in the past, had dominion of that world, of the old world, the old time world, the world that was ruled under the negative polarity, where only 1% really got to experience the fruit of the land, and the 99% were made to support their dreams. Like your so-called stars, like your so-called celebrities. What is the universal disclosure behind being a celebrity or a star? Well, the universal disclosure in that, calling them, putting them on a platform higher than you, right? And calling them stars. Well, the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions, that take seats, they take offices, they take positions on earth, but they come from other dimensions. Well, they are just having, this is universal law that they have to disclose the truth to you, but they do not have to disclose how they're going to disclose universal truth. So obviously we see it in movies, we see it in different productions, advertising and things like that. If they were to connect your subconscious mind with your conscious mind, the truth would set you free. Let me say that again. If they were to tell you directly and connect your subconscious mind with your conscious mind, they would be just like the great God, Universal Allah said in Yahushua. The truth would set you free. And they would not have 99% of whatever you want to call yourself, whether you are a fan, whether you are a follower, whether you are a financial supporter of the entertainment industry, whatever it is. They need you. They need you to buy their creations. They also need you to feed into their creations. They need you to believe in their creations. And they basically need to send you to the dimensions of Gehenna, which was referred to in the Bible as hell. Hebrew translation being a Gehenna, a place in Israel that it was like a Death Valley, and trash was burned there day and night. So we have these translations called hell, and people equate an eternal hell to that. Gehenna was a actual location I believe it was in Israel. I believe Gehenna was in Israel. But neither here nor there. That is the intent. This meaning the spiritual wickedness in higher dimensions, acting through high positions, high society on earth, if they can send you to the dimensions of hell, they can raise their frequency by what? Stealing, harvesting, energy harvesting your pure, positive life force. That same substance that Elon Musket head needs to line his rocket ships to catapult off into space. Well, we are the real ones. We are the vessels of righteousness. We are the vessels of the great God, universal Allah. And we can do this with our actual bodies. We have the ability to remove all of the negative polarity within us that literally weighs us down in energies like anger, unforgiveness, rage, depression, sorrow, sadness, the list goes on and on, where it's not possible to meet the great God, universal Allah, in these energies. So we can lighten our frequencies in alignment with the positive polarity, and the great God, universal Allah, shall meet us in the heart. But for this time, we are in the end times. We are crossing over. We're physically seeing the crossover from leaving a negative polarity age, the age of Pisces, to crossing over into a positive polarity age, the age of Aquarius, where love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice are the governing rulers and principalities of this age. And everyone has an opportunity to go towards the positive polarity, even through actions such as suffering, or even through a perception such as suffering, because the great God, universal Allah, said suffering produces patience. Patience is a positive attribute of frequency. So this video is merely about the devices of Satan. The devices of Satan and the devices of the synagogue of Satan. Who runs Hollywood? Who is the chief operators of Hollywood? The synagogue of Satan. That's what my Father in heaven, the great God, universal Allah, refers to as, I'm just paraphrasing this, that those that call themselves Jews but are not, they are the synagogue of Satan. They have taken the customs, that's why it's Jewish, sort of Jew, because they have taken the customs and used it for glorification of their father, Satan. So this video will be about how this is for the very elect. We have individuals that they enter into the game just to sacrifice their life for the masses. They were agents of righteousness, masquerading as the dark. And this video is about the late departed, but not departed, right? Because there is no death. There is only separation from the great God, universal Allah. So this individual is being restored back to divine order in other dimensions and preparing for reincarnation for retribution's sake. This is judgment time on earth. This is judgment time on earth. We ended a touch time cycle. I don't know how many years comprise the age of Pisces, but the age of Pisces is over. So for us to move into this new world, a new world under the age of Aquarius, we have to experience what the basic instructions before leaving Earth, the Bible refers to as the great falling away. Absolutely. We are in the time of the great falling away. Well, where did we fall away from? Well, we fell away from one polarity operating on the earth, and we are currently in a new polarity operating on earth. We are now operating with the positive polarity operating on earth. So that took a falling away. There was a reverse consciousness operating on earth. There was a fear-based, fear agenda consciousness operating on the earth, right? That's how 1% got everyone else to do the dirty work for their freedom and abundance and wealth and resources on the land, right? I would call that fear, because my Mother Earth said that she has way more than enough to supply for everyone's needs. We're not going to get into that. That's not what this video is about. It's just that that is how that last age operated on the earth. And how they did it, it was very sophisticated, and it is a machine that operated it. And that machine was a fear and promote in the form of promote lower self, right? Everyone is doing things for this paper money. Everyone lives for paper money instead of living for resources and doing what you love while also having everything that you need. The 99% had to compromise that. They had to compromise doing what they love on a because I'm referring to the law of cause and effect and the scales of Maya, that which scale are you going to be on? Are you going to be on the negative side of the scale or the positive? Did you do more thoughts, words, and deeds? Because there is a book of life, great God, universal Allah. This is not about a teaching. That's right in the Holy Quran, Circle 7. The book of life, where every thought, word, and deed is recorded by the angels of the great God, universal Allah. You can look that up yourself. But all of your thoughts, words, and deeds, whether you were singing some rapper's song, whether you were listening to some music, listening to shows or movies that became your own thoughts because they were playing on repeat. We know that according to science, About 15 minutes of repetition programs the subconscious mind. How many times have you listened to your favorite celebs or whatever they are? How many times have you watched their movies, watched their creations, listened to their songs, sung their songs? Well, guess what? This is disclosure. This is what they didn't have to tell you, because that's already on the record. Allah's Book of Life. I believe some spiritual circles call it the Akashic Records. If it is the same thing, I could be wrong, but what thoughts, words, and deeds are you going to have to account for in your new life sentences? When your consciousness receives that sentence from the only judge, the great God, universal Allah. Who else's thoughts, words, and deeds are you going to be accountable for? Because if you made it your own through repetition, programming your own subconscious mind by repeating these things, whether you're seeing it in movies, whether you're listening to it, music, or whether you're singing the music, if you, through your own conscious actions, program that into your subconscious mind, you are responsible for that. And that's what Nicki Minaj is not going to tell you. That's what your favorite singer, rapper, actress, actor, politician, whatever, movie writer, movie producer, they're not gonna tell you that you're on the hook once you consciously program that into your subconscious mind. The great God, universal Allah, even said, my people perish for their lack of knowledge. So what you did not know during that age of Pisces, I call it a dark age because only 1% were really programmed and taught and privileged to take advantage of the universal laws that basically have you to have dominion over that earth. They did so through universal law, adhering to universal law and getting you to break universal law. Excuse me, to violate universal law unknowingly. This was merely about, again, when I said the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions, right? Their intent is to send you to the dimensions of Gehenna. That's what many people and the Bible refers to as Gehenna. Gehenn. N like Nancy, A like Apple. Gehenna, which was a place in Israel where trash was burned. Now, we already know a lot of words cannot be translated from a higher frequency language like Hebrew to an extremely low frequency language like English. English was given to my ancestors to take away their power, to take away their divinity, to take away their divine origins and their divine mind. And what makes you think that Hebrew is properly translatable into English language? I mean, Didn't the great God say, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay? But we find that in English language, it's so many different synonyms, antonyms. It's just so many meanings to one word that all of these words would have to be up for interpretation. Because the great God said that heaven or hell is a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness. The great God, Universal Allah, also said in the Holy Quran that all men shall be saved. All men shall be redeemed. Back to the great God, Universal Allah. We don't know what lifetime and how many lifetimes, but all men shall be redeemed and reconciled to the great God, Universal Allah. But you have pastors out there telling people that they're going to burn in some hell that was an actual physical location in Israel for all of infinity, all of eternity. That's not what the great God, Universal Allah said. And obviously it was intentional because the truth sets people free. That system, that old time system had no interest in you having a free mind. Even Yahushua came to set the captives free and give them the gospel and the good news. So it was just that. And that is, it's unfortunate to many that are going to be put back in a reincarnation cycle, actually in the lower dimensions of hell, Gehenna, because of their belief that if they don't do this and this and this, they are going to hell for all eternity. I don't know how long that could keep a soul recycled in dimensions and realities that feel like hell. So I don't know how many I think on the next video I'll illustrate my point, because I wanted to at least put a picture up of what I'm talking about, but it's too late now. We're already in 22 minutes into this, and that's what it's like when you're talking about the great God, the Universal Allah. The time goes by so fast. The universal disclosure, the time is speeding up. The days are getting shorter because the human resonance on Earth is raising. The Earth is raising her frequency. She's in labor right now. Remember, suffering produces patience. She's in her ascension process, my mother. She's in her ascension process. She's doing it through suffering. She's doing it through labor. And we, the chosen, are the very elect to the chosen of the New Age of Aquarius, right? We're doing the suffering and laboring with her. We are the ones that are assisting her in birthing this new earth, a new earth restored back to divine order in perfect harmony with the great God, Universal Allah. That is what these labor pains are about. This is why the mother is in such, what they call labor pains, suffering. It's like, you go through, I'm saying for a human, you go through 10 months of incubating a baby in your womb, and you expect that reward. You expect to get that new, pure, innocent baby. Well, some of you are having demons out here, but that's another. We ain't gotta get on that. But that's what's going on. So it is our duty to shed these layers of evil within us that have been programmed into us by a fear-based society. of that old world, with in the Bible as well, the basic instructions before leaving Earth. The world, the correct translation being age. End of the world, end of the world, end of the world is coming. We already ended the world. We ended the age of Pisces. The world was not translated right from Hebrew to English. English is an elf language. You have elf frequencies. Extremely low frequency language is the English language. It comes from the European. Look what they did to our ancestors. Did you think they would give us back our native tongue? Our native speak? Of course not. They had every interest in harvesting our melanin for purposes of slavery, capitalism, consumerism, and commercialism. So that being an extremely low frequency, it is not properly translatable. And yes, world in the Bible refers to an end of an age, an end of time, an era of time, an eon. An eon is an era of time, is an age, is an end of time. Not end of the world. You think the great God, universal Allah, is just going to hit a detonator button? Earth will get rid of you before you get rid of my mother. What? She's one of my mothers. She will get rid of you all before you can get rid of her. That's what the cleanup job is going on now. They were ordered, divine order, clean up what you messed up. As much as possible until the great God comes in and just sends the flood. Now, I'm not saying if it's water, I'm not saying if it's by fire, because to me, it's all of that. They showed you the end time scripts in these Hollywood movies. When nature attacks by fire, nature attacks by water, by flood. So the end times will look like a cleansing of evil by all the forces of nature, by all the forces of Mother Earth are involved in this transition from one physical age on Earth played out. The spiritual end also happened. Now we're in a new age spiritually, but we're watching it play out physically. That's an importance with universal law, as above, so below, as within, so without. This is effective us internally, and what affects us externally also affects the world. Universal law of one. What affects us internally also affects us, our external realities. Universal law of one. We affect our one vessel, our consciousness. One vessel affects the all. That's in the Holy Command Circle 7. We are all bound by one cord. That is the universal law of one. So the great God, universal Allah, is saying, if you do not remove the evil and the fear that was programmed into your heart and mind and memory centers, then you will not be able to be in alignment with my mother, who is raising her frequency back to divine order. You will not be able to keep up with her frequency to maintain an electromagnetic field to even operate on the earth. You will be like one of those nanobots being artificially animated. And that's going to get real wicked, because that's run through a G network. extremely low frequency network grid, things connected to electronics and things like that. And, I'm not going to get into the depth of it, but again, if you are experiencing your life from the negative polarity that was programmed within you, fear-based programming that was within you, and you do not have the electromagnetic field to maintain a vessel on this earth, then you will be in accordance with the universal law. It's slipping my mind right now, but just the universal law that my galactic, because I've done an extensive amount of DNA purging, transmutation. The ancestors' spiritual tongue, galactic tongue, was able to be transferred to me through DNA, healing, transmutation, and repair. So when my mind, is in so many dimensions, it purges these low frequencies within me that block me from the divine mind, because I just about forgot that universal law, which is just basically the law of, I'm going to call it, I could be wrong, I'm going to call it the law of transmutation. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy has to be transmuted from one form to another. Energy can be transferred. You can transfer energy. You can direct energy. You can apply energy. So whatever state that you leave this earth, you will pick back up somewhere else at that exact frequency. That's why my ancestors died in sin. Not that they were horrible people. Most of the things that was done to them, they were brutalized and they were victimized. But that made them die in sin, because they did not die in their original divine intent, their divine state. The great God, Allah, is not sadness, suffering, poverty, loss, grief, torture, torment. That's what the European did to my ancestors for how many years? That if it's only 15 minutes to program the subconscious minds, what was programmed into my ancestors, the indigenous ancestors, the melanated? One was a curse, where this is the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, where my nation is proud and handsome race, melanated race of beings. They were cursed in 1774 by the European slaveholder, and they were labeled black because Satan, that had possessed the European vessel to commit such heinous crimes against my indigenous melanated ancestors, right, gave them the science of colors. There is a science behind every color. I can't confirm that for you. I'm not an earth student. I study in other dimensions, so it comes through different for me. Or I receive universal cosmic information just as a channel, so it comes through different. So once we can connect those two, the subconscious, the superconscious, the subconscious, with the conscious mind, hey, we're in the golden age. We're in the golden age, baby. Take your seat and reclaim your power back. That's what the goal is for this new age of Aquarius. But so that's pretty much how it goes. I'm sure someone out there can give the statistics, the facts of the science behind your colors and the frequencies that certain colors emit, right? So when Satan gave the European that science, Satan told them, like, call them black. This is going to put them in a derogatory state of consciousness. Call them black, Negro, colored, African American. This is a curse. This is going to program this curse into their DNA, their, all of their memory centers. And they're going to remember themselves as a cursed nation, and they're going, just the law of cause and effect. If I cause you to be black, I can get you to act black, right? That's what my nation is running around here doing, acting black. When we are the top tier, most royal, noble, just aristocratic, with Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali calls proud and handsome race. That's why we can be at the bottom, and everybody still needs our shit. Everybody still needs our shit, right? Elon Musk can't get to outer space without melanin. NASA, they can't get to outer space without melanin. You got the whole world doing everything we do. Because if they could get you to think less of yourself, they can steal everything you got. And that's exactly what's went on with my nation. And I personally right now want to call in a divine court hearing. I want to call in a divine court hearing for all time and space, past, present, future, timeline. Because we got to remember, this is universal law, as above, so below. This stuff started with the spiritual wickedness in the higher dimensions. They needed vessels. They need really hackable vessels that they could just possess. And guess what? The European is lacking in melanin. Melanin is what connects you to God's source, the great God, universal Allah. That's what melanin is. Melanin is the great God, universal Allah. And those that have the highest concentrations, that's the variation of the connection, soul evolution to the great God, universal Allah. So Satan, like, yo, I need a vessel it's going to do my will, do my satanic will. And they entered into contract with Satan to oppress my nation. And they enlisted all of the other nations to be set against us. To be set against us. And we see it still playing out today. Who does business, commerce on the indigenous, melanated, copper, so-called black land? Who does business here? Who's getting the money here? Besides our nation, those of our nation that have to do illegal things to get it. I'm saying, who's doing legal business and enterprise on my ancestors' land? All of the other nations are set up on my ancestors' land. You got the Chinaman, they took divvies They divvied up the melanin and said, all right, we're going to steal them. We're going to rob from them. We're going to give them shit food. Don't know if you eating dogs, cats, or rats when you go in these Chinese stores. Because listen, if they eat it over there, what makes you think they wasn't doing that shit to defile my nation over here? Can we listen, this is a divine court hearing. At this point, everything is going to be reconciled by the great God, universal Allah. This is judgment time on the earth, period. So I don't need no facts, no statistics on that. That's all coming out in a divine court hearing. We will see the judgment to see the progression of man, who goes up and who goes down, because that's what judgment time is on the earth. You telling me they over there in China slaughtering dogs, eating cats, rats, and you telling me my nation that's despised, that was given a contract by the United States Corporation to open up Chinese stores in every hood to make sure we will be defiled. You telling me that's all chicken? And not to say that chickens eat any better. My petition would be to outlaw all animal slaughter. Eating all animals would be, that would be abolished. Animal slavery would be abolished. Because it's been done way too wrong. It needs to be balanced out. There is a karmic debt on the torture that these animals have had to go through on participating in this earth experiment of free will. We give you free will. Let's see what you're going to do with that. Well, you wanted free will. I got you a one-way ticket to the dimensions of hell. And no, I'm not talking about no eternal hell that you stay in forever. I'm talking about, these are dimensions, these are states in mind. If you reincarnate into a hell, that can be done on earth. There are people living in hell on earth. That's a state of your mind, a state of consciousness, the frequency that you're oscillating on. If you're incarnated to grief, what if you incarnate as one of those animals, reincarnate as one of the animals that lived their life of slavery and then have a horrible slaughter, or a terrifying, shocking slaughter? That's what a lot of earth people could be getting. Allah, obviously Allah is the only judge, but that's what a lot of earth people could be getting, because these animals, they suffer just like you. They love just like you. They have families just like you. They care about, things just like you. So I want to call in another divine court hearing for all of the animals across the four corners of the earth. My petition would be in this divine court hearing that all the energy of suffering from the collective consciousness of animals and humans affected by animal slaughter, that it be transferred to the divinely chosen dimensions, realities, people, places, and things to balance out this karmic debt against the animals that we created. And the great God, universal Allah, said that one thing that we can do, this was an experiment. We came here to learn by contrast. And if you were one of those ones like myself that learned in contrast and did participate in animal consuming, right? Well, some people are stopping. It's beacons out there that are dealing with guilt consciousness. They can't get over the fact of justice for any animals that you do eat, if you still eat them. You can call on divine justice on their behalf. Maybe if you eat flesh one day, maybe you can fast the next day. It's different ways to transmute, but it's also different levels to understanding the skill of transmutation. Some, their karmic balance will look like complete abstaining. I find this gross. I find this disgusting. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to stop. Some of it will be to actually be transmuters for the animals. Because every batch that I eat, that goes up before, it's recorded, it goes up before the divine courts. And all of that gets transferred out. Because there are very wicked and evil entities in other dimensions that were very much responsible for us doing that. Because the divinely intended diet, one of them was in Genesis, I believe like 119 or 120, or somewhere around there. I don't read like that. I read since a long time, but the Holy Spirit brought that back to me. Like, that was like Genesis 119, Genesis 120. That was our divinely intended diet from the great God, Universal Allah. To maintain harmony and balance with the earth. I would like to give a testimony and just glory, honor, and praise to the great God, Universal Allah, for the great God will and shall let us struggle so we know that contrast. That's in the Holy Quran, Circle 7. A soldier never knows their strength until they have battled with such great foes. And one of my foes on earth has been food addiction. And that's not even food. More like a sugar addiction. Because we know when the processed food breaks down, it breaks down into sugar in your gut. And we know through science that sugar is proven to be more addictive, just as addictive, equally addictive, or almost as addictive as cocaine. You got that right. There was a scientific study that was done. There were mice. They were fed a sugar diet, a processed food diet their whole life. The researchers, they took it away and they substituted it with a healthy diet. Those rats, they starved to death. I don't know if that's still on the internet, on the records. That's probably a decade-old study that I was familiar with. I don't know if it's still on, and maybe one day someone can be able to tell me, like, what that study, the exact study. But they just showed how addictive processed food is, because, you know, Food and Drug Administration, that's universal disclosure, Food and Drug Administration. The legal limits of drugs allowed in your processed foods, right? So nonetheless, if you're not detoxing on a regular basis, you're not detoxing your organs and all of that, your tissues and muscles and things like that. A muscle holds memory, tissue holds memory, organs hold memory. We have memory in our gut, we have memory in our brain, we have memory in our cell, we have memory in our taste buds. We are creatures of memory. We hold memory. Us being 70% water, water holds memory. We are more water than anything. We hold memory. So it's like, you know, we hold in memory of all these chemicals, some of the most addictive chemicals just in small amounts. Again, if you're not doing full body detoxes, I'm talking about organs and all, these chemicals are building up. These additives, chemicals, and you know, drugs they are storing up in your memory sensors. They are storing in they're being programmed into your memory sensors. And over time, you wonder why you have a fast food dependency or a drug dependency. Well, because you've reached a dependency. Your organs, your memory has reached a dependency on what it knows to access levels of, like the dopamine, the feel-good chemicals that make you want to go out there in the world and do things that you probably don't want to do. The food assists you, and some, you don't know what background people are coming from. Some people are not going to go on the extreme end and just do your hardest drugs, but fast food is still a drug. There are still extremely addictive chemicals, enough that those rats, they starve themselves to death. There was times I would not eat. If I couldn't get my hands on some fast food, I wouldn't even want to eat. And that still applies sometimes, depending on my frequency, but sometimes that applies still. But I want to personally thank the great God, Universal Allah, for assisting me in transmuting my own food dependencies and food addictions. I've come a long way. I'm talking about from literally eating out fast food every single day. Like how that documentary was, that guy that was eating fast food, McDonald's all the time. Like it was like on that shit. So, this is all glory, honor, and praise to the great God, Universal Allah. It's only the great God, Universal Allah to assist me. As I was giving glory, honor, and praises to the great God, Universal Allah, I forgot my train of thought because there was an interruption. But listen, I don't know what you entities and you demons think you ever interrupt me giving glory, honor, and praise to my Father in heaven, the great God, Universal Allah. I will cast you to the dimensions of hell. Gehenna personally myself. I don't play with that shit. Now, I would like to call in a divine court hearing for every system that has created drug addicts from either pharmaceuticals or from either food. All you scientists out there in those labs that were concocting all of these chemical additives to put into the food that even had me, an angel of the great God, Universal Allah, addicted. This is a divine court hearing against you. This is a divine court hearing against the United States Corporation for allowing my nation to be poisoned by food. This is a divine court hearing, and this is a divine transfer. Listen, the great God is in charge of this. The only judge is involved in these court hearings, involved in ruling in these court hearings, and involved in awarding and transfers from these divine court hearings. What is our duty as co-creators with the great God of Universal Allah? Us being the one thought of the great God, Universal Allah, manifested in the flesh. That's the Holy Quran, Circle 7. Go look it up yourself. I ain't no preacher. I just love to talk about my Father in heaven. I love to talk about the great God, Universal Allah. But the fear-based consciousness, I got to understand more about the great God Universal Allah, the saving power of the great God Universal Allah through food addiction. Alright, I learned my lesson, so now it's time to transfer those sins to the rightful dimensions and realities, people, places, things, situations, simulations, scenarios. Multi-dimensionally. This petition also, and all of my petitions also include the divinely connected to I vessel, I consciousness, I realities, multi-dimensionally. So these beings that are divinely connected to me also benefit from my ascension more closely because they are more closely connected to me. The universal law of one. It doesn't matter what dimension they're in. My ancestors are receiving awards. They're being awarded their pure positive energy that was stolen. They're being awarded that back because I, vessel, just like you go into maybe start a lawsuit or petition for a lawsuit, listen, I have a plethora of lawsuits that I need to file right now for grievances against many, many people involved. But I've never went down to a court and filed a formal lawsuit, right? So I'm not even entitled to receive any type of award. And I'm saying in the lower self courts, in the physical courts, in the carnal courts. But guess what? I call in a divine court hearing for everything that comes up that was against my divinity. The same way people always filing lawsuits here, I'm filing lawsuits against everything that was done to me that comes to memory. And these things come to memory at any given timeline where it's ready to leave your memory. Guess what? When it leaves my memory, it's either going back to neutrality, it's either going back to 0 point, or it's getting transferred to another, whether person, place, thing, dimension, reality, whether it's spiritual wickedness in higher dimensions, it gets transferred, whether it gets transferred to Satan of the world, Satan, enemy to the great God Universal Allah, because Satan just means adversary. Satan means enemy, it means adversary. But no, we're talking about the Satan that was responsible for the decimation of my Mother Earth and its inhabitants, the subjugation of my Mother Earth and its inhabitants, right? So, as a co-creator with the great God Universal Allah, that's my responsibility to call for a divine court hearing on that memory that came up. Whenever it's ready to come up, because naturally it'll stay suppressed in the cells. We think we forgot about things, and one day we just remember something. Once it comes up and you consciously remember that is your choice what you do with it. If you choose to ruminate, how you say that word? Ruminate. If you choose to ruminate on that memory, that negative memory, if you choose to harbor negative feelings, that's only going to affect your consciousness, because again, you're only the one thought of the great God Universal Allah manifested in the flesh. You are responsible for you. You are responsible for where your consciousness goes to. Because everything can be transmuted back to 0 point neutrality. That's where it is no longer giving a negative charge out to the universe in the all, because all is connected by one person feels negative about it, one person may feel positive about it. So it's all about your perception. Do I believe that the negative things that happened to me were for the good of all? I believe that. So I have changed my mindset and my viewpoint that all is good and that all will balance itself out. So I can call on these divine court hearings. These divine court hearings, the great God, Universal Allah, is the judge, and the angels of Allah are sort of like the lawyers, they're like the paralegals, they get all the facts. Everything that was written concerning your situation, whatever happened, they get all the facts. They go through the book of life, they go through the great God, Universal Allah's book of life, and they see all involved in it, and all of that comes up, and the great God, the judge, the only judge, decide where this, because the great God awards it energy. It's only energy, that's it. So all right, we're gonna reinstate, we're gonna restore this vessel's pure positive energy. It was stolen from them. They called it a divine court hearing. Now we're transferring it back, and now the suffering that this individual experienced, right? They reached a point in their consciousness where they were able to view suffering as a positive word. Suffering produces patience. It could be anything, even injustice. Maybe some of us have to experience injustice so that we can know personally what justice is. Justice is the great God, Universal Allah. So us coming here to learn and contrast, if we look at it as a positive thing, then we won't be accruing more karmic debt through law of cause and effect, because every thought, word, and deed leads to the next thought, word, and deed. You got that right. Every thought that you have, every word that you speak, every action that you take, it produces the next. If I have a negative thought, I am going to have a negative speech, or I'm going to have a negative, take negative action because I'm feeling negative. So no one, this is an age of accountability. It's not about, you could say, there's no problem with saying, speaking up. The great God wants you to speak up. The great God wants you to speak your truth. But always understand that everything that you experience was through your own consciousness, because that's in alignment with universal law. As above, so below, as within, so without. Everything within you is going to, at some point in time and space, is going to manifest externally. Some of us are, I don't even know what to call it. To me, it's like winning the lottery. It's like somebody who won $1 billion share in the lottery, on like you being a vessel, consecrated, set aside, chosen by the great God, Universal Allah, to go through the most intense trial and tribulation. You would be a Job or like a Joseph, right? You were chosen for that, to assist the earth in her suffering, for her labor pains, just so you could assist with a new earth being created, a whole new earth being created, and the great God is using your vessel. That's what I would call winning the lottery. This is, again, we don't know how many times it takes for people to ascend to the higher place of life. My gosh. He's talking about some that don't have souls, some that have very new souls. It's not a job for the faint of heart. Let's just say that. But it's no other job on earth besides this job, really, because all is going back to dust. All thoughts, words, and deeds are going back to 0 point. That's what this age is about. This age is about, are you working on bringing up your negative polarity from all time and space, from your DNA, your ancestral DNA? Are you participating, or are you focused on building up Satan's world? The great God universal Allah said, even if you did have a perfect life, if you're like my nation, the melanated, Asiatic, Moorish, American, indigenous, native, with the European, curse my nation as black, even if you had the perfect life, if your ancestors were enslaved, that is in your DNA, and it has to come up before we can get to this new earth. All fear has to be collapsed in the collective consciousness. In the book of life, everything has to be settled from earth to get to a world operating in divine order. I think I'm gonna end that here. The next video that I want to do, I want to just give an example of Hollyweird, and how they were used to deceive my very elect. And these are, again, whether you want to call it a medium, whether you want to call it a shaman, I work with departed souls. They do not have the vessels, and they all died, departed in a state of heavy energy, dense energy, grievous energy, betrayal energy, loss energy, death energy, separation energy. And as above, so below. If you were in a grave, you would not be able to get out. And when you are spiritually buried in so much negative energy, you would need a doctor, you would need a surgeon, you would need an intercessor to assist you with the transmutation process. And that's what I do with a lot of souls, departed souls, including the indigenous ancestors. I work for the indigenous ancestors, and I work for the great God universal Allah assigns me children, his children that have been chosen, selected to have their fear-based energies transmuted, and I have to do that through various means and methods. So I do want to put this on the record about what Hollyweird did to one of our clients in particular, but that will be in the next video, inshallah. Glory, honor, and praise to the great God universal Allah, and happy ascension.